Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Our session is on digital agriculture, so accelerating the growth, sustainability, and inclusivity of digital agricultural solutions. My name is Ethel Kofi. I am the founder and CEO of Adel Technology Solutions, a technology consulting house out of West Africa. And I am also founder of Women in Tech Africa, which is a network of 5,000 women across 30 African countries that are in the tech sector. So in setting the scene, Africa, especially Sub-Saharan Africa, needs to significantly increase the levels of agricultural productivity to feed a rapidly growing population, respond to food, nutrition insecurity, and adapt to climate change. Digital solutions can help respond to these needs and accelerate agricultural transformation across the continent by improving market efficiency, transparency, aggregation, and integration. But these solutions must be implemented in a sustainable and inclusive way. How can digital solutions for Africa's agriculture sector be accelerated for maximum sustainability, inclusivity, and scalability? This session will discuss recommendations towards increasing the overall sustainability of digital solutions for African agriculture, the role of stakeholders, so private sector donors, investors, and governments will be analyzed. And then we'll talk about sound national digital strategies for agriculture that require individual and collective plans of action by governments and the private sector. And that includes small startups and large private sector companies, as well as the agricultural value chain. This includes the actors in the rural and in the urban areas. The development, use, and scale of digital solutions for agriculture depends on an enabling environment. This includes the infrastructure and policy that provides the foundation of digital systems and digital innovations, which is the tools and applications that deliver direct benefits to the farmers, the data that the farmers can use to localize content. This session will also cover inclusivity as a key consideration for effective digital solutions. This will enable us to discuss, I suppose, the three divides, which is the digital divide, the rural divide, and the gender divide in the digital solution discussion. I'm going to hand over to our speaker, Mr. Liam Condon. So Liam Condon, he has been a member of the board of management of Bayer AG and president of the crop science division headquarters in Monheim, Germany, since January 1st, 2016. He's also responsible for the regions Latin America and Africa. Since 2016, Condon is a member of the governance panel for consumer industries at the World Economic Forum. And since September 2017, Condon is also the chairman of the board of directors of CropLife International, the R&D-based agricultural industry association. So Mr. Condon, please take it from here.
Thanks a lot, Ethel. I really appreciate the very kind introduction, and I'm very, very excited to be with you here today. Given that the first presentation and the first few presentations are all about setting the scene, I wanted to give a bit of a frame for the discussion that is to follow now, and focusing on shaping what's possible for Africa. The company I represent, Bayer, is basically the only company in the world that works in the area of healthcare and agriculture at the same time. So we look after health, and we look after the health of humans and the health of plants. That's what the company is all about. And we have what I think is a very bold vision and aspiration. And this is the reason everybody in our company gets up every morning. We call it health for all, hunger for none. And this is something that everybody in our company is firmly driven by. This is ultimately the purpose of everything we do. And I think it's particularly relevant for Africa. And I think you can get the inclusivity of this vision. Hunger for none is a big goal, but it's something we absolutely have to achieve, and because there cannot be health for all unless we eliminate hunger. And this as rather should be the goal by 2030 and not get pushed out again as has happened in the past. Now, to do this beyond the healthcare business, we need a strong agricultural business. And here the paradox of agriculture is, how do you feed the world without starving the planet? Because planetary health equally has an impact on human health. So we've got to make sure that agriculture is done the sustainable way. And this for us is the framework. I think is also a helpful framework for discussion. And solving this paradox, we believe there's three elements that are key, that are important for the discussion. One is we need more innovation. That innovation has got to be fit for purpose. What we do is seeds, crop protection products. Innovation can take many forms, can also be social innovation, but it's got to be fit for purpose. I'll talk briefly about this. I believe we've got to set new standards in sustainability. As part of our sustainability goals, we have set the goal to empower a minimum of 100 million smallholder farmers by 2030, and introduce not only good agronomic practices, but also access to quality seeds and crop protection products. So this is also a pretty ambitious goal. And to achieve this, we believe there needs to be a digital transformation of agriculture. But again, this needs to be fit for purpose. This for me is the bigger frame of the discussion that we're going to have also later on in the panel, what the digital transformation is really serving. And I believe it's working towards this goal of achieving health for all, hunger for none. I think it's important to bear that in the back of the mind as we talk about the digital possibilities. Now, when we talk about digital possibilities, the possibilities are endless. And of course, in Africa, the possibilities are particularly endless. Sources of data are everywhere, whether it's satellites, whether it's drones, remote sensors, the use of artificial intelligence to then analyze all the data that's coming in. But the big question is, and revolves around access. And do particularly smallholders, Ethel, you mentioned the digital divide, do smallholders have adequate access? Is rural connectivity a given? There are many challenges here, and I think this is our single biggest issue when we talk about digital farming. The possibilities are endless. We can help endless amounts of smallholder farmers, but we need to make sure that they have access. To do this, our learning has been, I mean, we've developed digital platforms for big row crops in Latin America, in North America, in Europe. In Southeast Asia and Africa, we've taken a very different approach, because we've learned that we can really only develop fit for purpose innovation if it's fine-tuned to the local needs. And that means we got to work with local entrepreneurs and local partners. Otherwise, what we develop and what we offer will not be fit for purpose. So this is for us so far has been a key learning, that we have to work with local partners. Now, the benefits of digitization are almost endless. But I think if I just highlight three areas that I believe are very important also for the discussion. One is the potential for the access to information. This can be weather information, it can be information about pricing at a local market, it can be information about good agronomic practices, or like on this example here on this slide, it could be something related to track and trace for avoiding, for example, counterfeiting, which tends to be a big problem also for smallholders in Africa. This is also a tool that can be used to connect smallholders actually all the way to consumers, because we can trace where products come from and where they end up. So great potential, as long as the smallholder actually has access to a mobile device and can use this technology. The second area, and I think we've all got to acknowledge, if we're trying to eliminate the challenge of hunger, access to information is wonderful, but you can't eat bites. You've got to have something to eat, and that is seeds. And this is the core of what we offer. And here again, same as I mentioned on the digital side, We work with a lot of local partners. And for example, we have here mentioned the Modern Breeding Partnership with the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, where we're using where our smallholder farmers, our partners are using handheld devices and data analytics to massively improve the quality and speed of breeding for relevant and indigenous crops in Africa. So this is hugely, hugely important. We have many partners. I'm very, very happy that Dennis will be speaking today from the AATF, fantastic organization doing absolutely groundbreaking work. We also work, of course, closely with CIMMYT, the Gates Foundation, and many, many others. Again, here the message is we have to work with partners that are locally relevant, who understand both local culture, but particularly local needs, and where we can have a technology transfer on the one side, learn from each other, and make sure that smallholder farmers have access to the quality products that they need to be able to flourish. Final one that I will add here is access to networks, and this is ultimately means connectivity. If we look at the challenges of smallholder farmers, they're multifold. No company, no government, no institution alone can solve all of the challenges. There's issues related to health, issues related to access to finance, insurance, access to inputs, access to markets, a multitude of challenges. What we have found, at least working closely with smallholders, we've got to try and develop ecosystems that are locally relevant, that connect the dots along the value chain and help the smallholder become part of a vibrant economy. And we have some examples. We call it Better Life Farming, where we work with various partners, filling in gaps along the value chain and connecting smallholder farmers to markets. And I think this is the single biggest promise that we have ultimately of the digital transformation, that we can connect the smallholder farmer to a market and make them a vibrant member of a vibrant economy. So not somebody who's just surviving, but somebody who can actually thrive. I'll give a last example here, one that always brings a smile to my face, because this is so, it's a typical example of the energy and the vibrance and the power in Africa. This guy beside me is Ilanyu Olua from Nigeria. He's the CEO and co-founder of My Farm Base Africa. Fantastic social innovation organization who's dedicated through bringing educating smallholder farmers in Africa using the latest in technology. Super young team, and they have a lot of collaborators on board doing fantastic work across 13 different countries in Africa. And these are the types of partnerships that really bring home what can be achieved. Again, a company like ours, and I would say many other big companies alone, cannot do any, I would say, cannot be successful ever alone. We can only try to help and nurture the talent that is already on the ground. And the more opportunities that we have to work with people like Ilanyu Olua, I think the better for everybody all over. So my final point and my final plea here is, if there's one thing to bring the digital transformation forward in a more sustainable and more inclusive manner, it's really a mindset of collaboration, partnerships, tapping into the local know-how, ensuring that there is a fair exchange of know-how, and helping build an ecosystem that is relevant for smallholders. I think if we can do that, we can tap into the true potential of Africa and hopefully on the way achieve our goal of health for all and hunger for none.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Dennis Chettere. He's the Executive Director of AATF. Dennis T. Chetere is the Executive Director of the African Agricultural Technology Foundation since 2012. Before joining AATF, he was the Director General of Uganda's National Agricultural Research Organization, NARO. Dennis holds a PhD from the Ohio State University, MSc from the University of Wales, all in genetics and plant breeding, and a BSc in botany and zoology from Makerere University, Uganda. So Dennis, Dr. Chetere, please take the stage.
Thank you, Moderator Ethel. Greetings to 2020 AGRF participants. It's an honor to be with you today. May I first congratulate the organizers of the event under the leadership of His Excellency President Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, and the AGRF Partners Group for putting up a successful meeting amid the current COVID-19 challenges. I'm delighted to join other speakers and panelists for this 10th annual summit of AGRF to deliberate on how our food systems can deliver resilient, better nourished, and more prosperous outcomes for our cities and our continents. And it is my pleasure to virtually meet Liam, the President of Bayer, our key partner at AATF. Liam, nice to see you virtually. As we have witnessed in recent years, African farmers are really making incredible progress, and they can become even more productive and profitable with the right tools, right technologies, and right knowledge. As we know, approximately 175 million people are directly employed in the smallholder farms in sub-Saharan Africa. But as these farmers are innovating, increasing productivity, and driving progress across economies, other challenges such as drought and climate change, pests and diseases, low access technologies, market failure, and inefficient value chains and adulterated agro-inputs threaten their gains. Fellow participants, the most critical question to ask at this point is, how are we responding to these problems facing our farmers? Colleagues, our best opportunity for transforming African agriculture into an engine of economic growth that will have benefit far beyond the farm sector lies in investing in and making accessible new farming technologies for Africa, from better seeds to machinery to digital tools. At AATF, we work through partnerships and collaborations, bringing together private sector, governments, NGOs, researchers, and farmers to access and deliver technologies that target specific production challenges. There is a growing potential of digital agriculture solutions that can help address some challenges in our agricultural systems. I would like to highlight 3 of these beneficial digital solutions. First, digital solutions offer an opportunity to support the deployment and commercialization of technologies. In the last 3 years, the number of farmers in Africa subscribed to digital services has grown between 40 and 45% per year. Digital tools provide e-extension and enhanced market access to certified inputs and weather advisory services. We are accelerating deployment and commercialization of technologies and application of digital tools through a number of applications. For example, we have developed and deployed a digital application, Market Information Support Systems for Cassava Mechanization and Group Processing, in short, MISCAMAP, that facilitates farm access to e-extension services and markets. Secondly, digital solutions can be effectively deployed to enhance crop management, seed inspection, and seed certification processes. Digital platforms offer capabilities for seed inspection with real-time data generated from the field, allowing quick decision-making, data management, and product traceability throughout the certification process, supporting efficient and seed dispatch across the border trade of seed. In addition, drones are being used for field surveillance and monitoring of crop performance, pests, and diseases. Thirdly, digital solutions can facilitate agricultural mechanization. Under the AATF managed AgriDrive Limited, which is a diversified agri-tech company focused on improving food and income security in sub-Saharan Africa, we developed a digital application that supports farmer access to mechanization services, and we refer to it as AgriDrive app. This application has been especially useful to farmers during this period of restriction under COVID-19. Both AgriDrive app and the Hero Tractor app provide tracking of farm assets, preventing fraud and machine misuse. Farmers also use this application to request and schedule mechanization services. The application also tracks and confirms that land activities have taken place without requiring the farmer to be on the site to monitor all operations. The applications also provide farmers with weather information to guide planning. In terms of adoption of digital solutions in agricultural value chains and the potential for growth, digital agriculture innovations can help to increase smallholder yields by up to 70% and incomes by up to 40%. The uptake of these solutions is considered a game changer in the transformation of African agriculture. An example, Hero Tractor application has to date served 22,500 farmers in Nigeria and Kenya, and reports a 200% increase in customer yield. Fellow participants, when it comes to innovation, and an enabling environment is critical. Over the years, farmers have been facing several impediments limiting their access to digital solutions. We therefore need policies and strategies that enhance access, inclusivity, and sustainability, and accelerated growth in appropriate digital services. Some key impediments to growth in the access and use of digital solutions include cost, capacity to access the technologies, and lack of appropriate content of the technology. To ensure inclusivity of digital agricultural solutions, we need clear business models to encourage the private sector to invest and drive growth in digital agriculture. Involvement of farmers or their representatives in the design of applications, tools, and software. Facilitating development and deployment of gender-sensitive digital tools. To accelerate growth of digital agriculture solutions, we need sound national strategies that include creating an enabling policy and regulatory environment to support adoption of digital solutions through ensuring affordability of mobile phones and connectivity and internet access, especially in the rural areas. Prioritizing high quality, skills-based digital solutions with digital education, especially among the youth. Integration of digital agriculture into school curricula and farmer field schools to accelerate adoption. As I end my contribution, I wish to emphasize that agricultural transformation is within our reach. Our farmers can improve their productivity, increase their wealth and health, and continue the path of progress if they have access to the right mix of farming innovations, including digital agriculture solutions. Thank you for listening to me.
That was very insightful. Thank you very much. Next up is Honorable Joseph Mucheru, the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Information and Communications of Kenya. Honorable Mucheru was appointed Cabinet Secretary by His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2015. He was formerly the Google Sub-Saharan Africa Ambassador as well as Google Country Manager Kenya based in Nairobi. He joined Google in 2007, where he led the delivery of strategy, business planning, and operations. Before joining Google, he worked at Wananchi Online, a company he co-founded in 1999. He is one of the few ministers of information and communications in Africa that that actually has industry experience. So we always love to hear from him. Over to you, Honorable Mucheru, please.
I'm very pleased to be here. Obviously not the Minister of Agriculture in Kenya, Minister of Technology, and so I'm assuming my remarks really will revolve around how we are using technology in Kenya to really grow and accelerate the sustainability of agriculture in our country. Let me start by saying that as a country, technology is at the heart of almost everything we're doing. And one of our key visions and strategies and our Vision 2030 and also in our Big Four agenda is to ensure we have food security for everybody. And this requires that we invest heavily in ensuring that people have access to food. It doesn't have to be necessarily the most affordable, but that everybody must have the ability to buy the food. And so we start with the agricultural sector, which currently contributes about 33% of our GDP. We also have about 65% of our earnings. This is the exports coming from agriculture. More than 40% of the population is employed by the agricultural sector. So really it's at the heart of everything that we do. And majority of the population, especially in the rural areas, over 70% are involved in agriculture. So our key aim overall as a government is to ensure we are providing food security and nutrition, and that we enhance the production of food. At the moment, we have many small-scale farmers, not as many large-scale, and therefore we want to see if we can grow the size of farms. We are looking at also taking the raw produce from farms and increasing the value of it through agro-processing. So we want to establish over 1,000 SME value, and then they can go directly to the market, whether it's local or international market. We're talking of creating over 200,000 new jobs by that process. This will be in the textile and apparels area. It will be in leather and in fishing. So many of the different agricultural areas. We want to be producing annually over 2 million shoes, as well as ensuring that working closely through private-public partnerships. We have over 700,000 acres of land being put under agriculture to ensure we have the sustainable farming. We are aware that by 2030, many of the food products that are key and part of our, the basket for our consumers, the prices are going to go up. And if these prices go up, it may be good for the farmers, but it doesn't help in terms of food security. We're talking of maize, we're talking of rice, we're talking of wheat and other crops. For instance, the expected price increase of maize is almost 12%. And with that kind of increase, then we expect there's going to be a challenge of ensuring we meet our objectives of sustainability. So use of technology can help us increase the amount of production and also ensure that as we do so, we reduce the cost. So the requirements to be able to do that hinge heavily on the technology side. So we're talking of ensuring we have the right instruments in our farms and in our environment to be able to know when rains are coming, what we can do with even locusts or flooding, many of the different environmental measures that we need to put in place. Ensuring that we have data, both real-time and historical data, that can show us what are the trends, what are we expecting to happen, that there is full access to all the farmers to this data. So whether they're in the farm with their mobile phone or it's a researcher in one of the research institutions, they're able to access this data in a very secure manner and be able to use it. The amount of data required for agriculture is quite heavy and significant. So building the data centers to ensure we have the right processing capacity, the proper storage, so that then people are able to access this data and we can store it. training people so that they know how to use this data, and ensuring that as they use the data and they come up with research, that this research is well coordinated and available to all people that are involved. Because ensuring that we have the right data, the right information, then we can make evidence-based decisions for policy formulation and ensure that then the legislation that we've put in place, the policies, and especially for investments, for messaging, are all in line with the real data from the ground. And to be able to do that, we ensure that then the training is not only for the farmers and the private sector, but also in the academic area. And so there's a whole system that we as a government are working on to ensure that all these systems are put in place. And that ecosystem really, as I've mentioned, is to ensure we have the right political support, not just from the president, who is very determined to ensure that this pillar is also successful, but also ensuring other politicians, the county governments and everybody involved gets on the same wave to ensure that we see growth in this area. That the laws that we put in place for data legislation, ensuring we have data protection as well as people being able to access the data in place, that we put the right infrastructure in place for it to work, and that the demand for that data is made available. So we are in the process of establishing a national research data center, which is specifically for agriculture, and ensuring that as that goes on, we're also establishing the academic supercomputing infrastructure, which can then be used by the researchers, especially in the universities, to be able to ensure that we have full access to this data. In our country, there's the primary use of technology is the mobile phone, and many of the farmers use it for cash transfers, mobile money. They use it for getting market information. So the government is putting in enough infrastructure to ensure there's more connectivity, there's broadband availability across the country, so that also private sector, which is rolling out many different applications which provide aggregation facilities, provide market opportunities and market information for the farmers. They are able to, for example, buy inputs together so that the cost is reduced. Many of these applications are now working. We as government have spent a lot of time mapping the country. So we've put GIS and cadastral maps so that the farmers also have ideas of what's happening in each of the different areas. And this works with also the private sector companies. Grow Intelligence is one that has been providing very good data and information that is also very extensive in terms of history. And the key thing is to make sure everyone is fully informed. We're investing and have already passed legislation to set up the commodities exchange so that farmers can be able to sell their products in country to even third parties who want to add value. And that together with the warehousing and receipting policy and bill that we put through, which is now a law. It means farmers can now just sell their products directly to warehouses, and people can then work with that. We have seen many companies now growing, Twigger Foods, Tyler and others have really grown on the back of this information being provided. And our aim as a government is to make sure that this environment continues to expand so that we can actually see the food security that we're talking about happen much sooner. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions after.
Thank you, Honorable Mucheru. Thank you for touching on other parts of the conversation like data protection and security. Next up, we have Honorable Paula Ngabire. So there are very few, there may be 3 or 4 women that run Ministry of Communications, ICT and Communications across Africa, and she's one of them. So it's very exciting for me to have her on here. Ms. Paula Ngabire is a Rwandan technology enthusiast and politician who currently serves as the Minister of ICT and Innovation of Rwanda. Before her current appointment, she was the head of the Kigali Innovation City Initiative and the former head of ICT at the Rwanda Development Board. She's part of Girls in ICT Rwanda and has also been at the helm of Transform Africa, a platform that brings together innovators and policymakers across Africa to shape Africa's digital transformation agenda. She was a systems design and management fellow at MIT. Honorable Paula, you have the stage. So there are about 2 questions. Says that the first question is, what percentage of smallholder farmers in Africa are women? 50%, 80%, 20%? What percentage of users of digital agricultural solutions are women? So the first question is, what percentage of smallholder farmers are women? And the next question is, what percentage of digital agricultural solutions are used by women? Which stage of the agricultural value chain would benefit most from digital agriculture? Is it input, storage, production, trade, packaging and processing, support services, financial, and extra. Next, I'm introducing the next sequence, which is session 2. The first set of panelists, thank you very much for setting the scene for us. Now we move to the second group of distinguished panelists who will discuss further on accelerating the growth, sustainability, and inclusivity of the digital African solutions. I will, just for time, I will introduce people quickly, and then they will give their 2 brief 1 to 2 minute remarks, and then we'll take the questions from there. So Ms. Amroti Abdallah, Director for Africa, Microsoft. She's the Regional Director for Microsoft for Africa Initiatives. In her career, she has focused on financial services, policy guidance, and economic development for Africa. Prior to joining Microsoft, Amroti worked for, amongst others, the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, the Global Hunger Project, and the Grameen Foundation. We have that in common, Amroti. At a point, we did some work with the Grameen Foundation. The next is Miss Lisa Schrader, Program Director of the AgFin Accelerates Program at Mercy Corps. Lisa is the Program Director of the AgriFin Accelerates and AgriFin Digital Farmer Programs at Mercy Corps. The 2 programs seek to expand smallholder farmer access to technology-enabled financial and information services across Africa. She has significant expertise in digital financial inclusion as well as agricultural finance, wholesale and retail microbanking, market research, and product development, ratings, and technical assistance. Lisa has worked on mobile and development deployments in 16 countries around the world, including Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, and Asia. Next, we have Mr. Eric Young of Green Tech Capital Partners. Eric is the CEO and co-founder of Green Tech, and he has helped develop the company's unique investment approach that combines funding, knowledge transfer, and capacity building. He is a specialist in working with startups, global strategy, and business development. He's also a specialist in international marketing strategies, implementing brand strategies, marketing plans, and communications campaigns. He has also directed innovation efforts and managed international teams in executing company strategies with global vision. I understand Green Tech has a partnership with, I think, Senegal to help fund, correct me if I'm wrong when we get to you, Eric, to help fund startups within that country. And then we have Ms. Ingabire Muziga Mami. She's the managing director of Charis UAS, a recent and fast developing startup. It's the first ever leading and licensed drone company in Rwanda. Ingabire has immensely contributed in using innovation to tackle some of the biggest challenges in agriculture and other various sectors, including construction, mapping, power line inspection, health sector, mining, and film documentary. Through the use of digital technologies, especially unmanned aerial vehicles known as drones, to provide new revenue and value-producing opportunities. She has led several UAV-based projects in agriculture, environmental, construction, and other sectors, and has created new knowledge, education, and employment for opportunities and opportunities for the youth. Our last speaker is Ms. Marisa Suarez. Forgive me if I'm butchering the surnames. She's currently the Director, Global Growth and Commercialization with the Yara International. Yara International has some really exciting work around digital farming, so we'd love to hear from her on that. Her experience includes marketing, strategy, and brand management across emerging markets. She is passionate about spaces where traditional business models and digital disruption meet. So before we get on the panel, we would, if we could have each panelist, starting with Amroti, give us a quick sort of 1 minute to 2 minutes start to the discussion.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Ethel. So allow me maybe to pick up where the Honorable Mucherus ended his comments around sort of the power of data, right? And this is where perhaps I can pick up on the first question that was asked, which is what are some of the tech companies doing in terms of transforming agriculture? As part of Microsoft, we have really been over the last year betting on the opportunity that we see in transforming agriculture as a sector. That is across the board, from startups and innovators that are working on driving change within the supply chain to actually working with data gathering, data analytics for better decision making for policymakers as well. So as we go into sort of, this year, we're renewing our engagement with AGRF for a second year, looking at a few areas. One, which is how do we actually enable and empower innovators, which is really key to sort of making sure that there's profitability, that there is a business-minded engagement to it beyond sort of soft money that's landing in the sector. The second one is how do we actually systematize data utilization across the board, right? For farmers as much as it is to policymakers, and how do we sort of integrate and create one platform that allows us to sort of go through and respond to crises such as the one that we've just gone through around food availability, price availability, because then that becomes not just a food security, but also a national security challenge as well at a country level. So these are really some of the investment that we've been making, and we'll continue to do that over the years, but we're ready, we're committed, we have partners. Again, reiterating AGRA, but also in platforms like the World Bank 1 Million Farmers platform, where we really are making sure that, not just us, but also our partners are coming into it, seeing the opportunity in agriculture to be able to take it to the next level. So with that, Ethel, I think I'll stop it and give an opportunity for the other panelists.
Thank you very much, Amroti. Can we have Ms. Lisa Schrader?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Ethel, and thanks to AGRF for including us in this panel. It's a great group of voices and experience. The Mercy Corps AgriFin programming has been around for really the last 6 years, funded by the MasterCard Foundation, mainly, and the Gates Foundation. And we focus on working with more than 110 partners to help them design, test, and scale digital services for smallholder farmers with a 50% women's outreach target. And we're currently now at about 8.5 million farmers that we've helped our partners to reach. And honestly, our numbers have significantly increased over the last 6 months with the arrival of desert locust and also the COVID-19 crisis. We're definitely finding a real dynamic shift in farmers' need to interact on their mobile devices and through digital solutions because their mobility has been affected. They desperately need information. They desperately need services. And I think we have a kind of a critical moment right now where we can drive behavior change. Amazing amounts of innovation are happening across Africa in reaching farmers. We've learned a lot about inclusion. Our program, you know, with that 50% gender target, that's always been our hardest target to reach. You know, innovation is there, even scale is happening, but making sure that it reaches women, it reaches farmers, really kind of working more in, you know, you know, lower margin crops that are extremely important to food security has been the most important part. So, you know, I think that what we're learning about reaching women is that digital technology can be used across a wide range of applications for women. Number one is if you make a solid value proposition to get a phone or to get technology for women, you show them there's something that will benefit them. Usually what happens is when we go back in the field, we say, hey, we can give you this on a phone. When we go back in the field, 50% more women have phones because there's a reason to make that investment. But in environments where, you know, there's not mobile network coverage or women are severely constrained related to mobility or the cost of the device or just accessibility to devices, which has happened for us definitely in Zambia and definitely in Ethiopia. We're finding a lot of really interesting approaches now to use technology, such as, you know, the kind of tech that Amrate is talking about, you know, to put devices in the hands of field force, government field force, private sector field force, and to go out and kind of take a cluster approach to reaching women. So in Ethiopia, we're working with the ATA, the Agricultural Transformation Agency, to put the crop-in solution in the hands of agricultural extension workers that reach 5 million farmers in clusters of 30 to 100 farmers at a time. And they're finding when they go out and they digitize these groups, there are a lot of women, and they're helping them to, you know, gain identity, helping them gain access to a wide range of services. You know, so I think many of our speakers have touched on the importance of data, online, offline tech, you know, field force models that really work for agribusinesses, but also work for farmers and work for all of the value chain players, the supply chain players in the middle, like the transport providers, different processors, value addition. You know, so I think that we're really excited about looking at platform approaches that are, you know, and I know that Microsoft is right in the forefront of this, and Marate is leading great work in this, but platform approaches that are very country context specific and can bring lots of services. And, you know, as I think many of our speakers have already pointed to, that are very clear-eyed about adoption and how you reach women. One thing that, you know, I'll close really quickly and looking forward to the discussion, you know, but one thing that we're definitely finding in countries like Tanzania and other areas of, you know, Kenya, Nigeria, is that women's cooperatives are really a fabulous way to bring women into the digital, you know, into the digital world. They themselves cannot usually digitize, but they can be linked into digital platforms that can create a superhighway for the women that they reach to, you know, to access services. You know, so I think that one thing that I'll just close on is it's really impossible for any single organization to do this on their own. Women's cooperatives cannot build digital platforms on their own, but they can plug in. I think we've got a lot of plug-in points. We've got a lot of great tech, and I would share the sentiments of many of the earlier speakers that I think we're on the edge of you know, of the real potential for digital platforms to transform agriculture in Africa. You know, but it's not necessarily always going to be about making sure that you know, that farmers are paying for, you know, that farmers are really the ones who are you know, who are driving grassroots up adoption, or that farmer cooperatives are driving technology innovation. It really needs to be an ecosystem approach. We need to play to the strengths of the multitude of stakeholders who are in this space right now, and really be smart about what we're asking different organizations, where they pull their weight, and how we can collaborate. And data collaboration and building a policy environment that that supports data collaboration across that ecosystem of players is going to be maybe the most important thing that we do in the next 2 to 3 years to really drive change. That's all for me. Over.
Thank you, Eric. Eric, you're on mute.
Yes. First of all, very happy to see you again, Etel. This has been a certain time, but always happy to see you. Yeah, I think that's when it comes on our side at GreenTech, what we're trying to do and understand is what are the frictions related to the development of companies in Africa and innovative companies especially. And of course, a lot of those innovative companies have been focusing on agriculture, which is a major topic. And what I can say and what I can see is that there's definitely a very strong there's a very strong capacity of creativity and a very strong capacity to bring innovation in that areas. And unfortunately, we see also that there's some challenges, and I've looked at some of the questions. There's some challenges in terms of scaling those solutions so that those solutions can become more viable. And that is kind of the challenge that we try to address at GreenTech, and give them the possibility to use digitalizations, but also find ways that those solutions can be viable, can be financed, can be integrated in other distribution systems, and can be also shared, and that there is a knowledge transfer that benefit to larger community. So because I think that we will have I think the opportunity to come back again on those topics, I think I will stop there.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Ms. Ngabire Muzigamami.
Thank you very much for having me to be part of these great discussions. I'm really excited to see how the discussions are going on. As CARIS, for the past 6 years, we have been doing quite a lot. As you have introduced us, we provide aerial imagery and data processing for farmers. So we provide rapid and high quality aerial imagery using drones and to provide the relevant information to farmers. And in agriculture, we do a lot of mapping, we do a lot of surveying, providing crop area calculations, elaboration of digital elevation models. We do crop inventory, which we came up with applications or software for tree counting and crop scouting, identification of local specific stress, crop stress in farms. And that has really helped a lot of farmers. As we are all saying here, digitalization is very important. And I think this is really time just to see how to implement this and have especially all the African countries adopt this solution. Because it's clear the benefits are clear. We have seen it as we are providing these services to farmers, to agribusinesses. And what has really helped us today to achieve what we have achieved as a company is we have seen political will, leadership that have really supported us to come up with regulations, the right legislations to help us around to do the work. So we see that all the key stakeholders, all the key actors in this field, in digitalization, must really work together and engage to help innovation in agriculture, to help digital solutions to grow and to be used by farmers. So that is very important, because it's really clear that digitalization not only drive great efficiency, sustainable increase in productivity, yield, and income, it also drives greater engagement within the actors. We have seen farmers coming together with agronomists, working together. We've seen youth engagement. Many youth now are willing, to work in these sectors as compared to as before, because of the digitalization, because of the innovation that is happening. And this is really exciting, and we are really looking forward to see many other African countries, adopting these solutions as quickly as possible. So I'm really excited to see that that is happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Ms. Marisa Source.
Hi, thank you to the AGRF and all our panelists here today. I think Yara has been involved in AGRF for many years. And in Africa, we've been here working with our partners for the last 50 years. We place our farmer at the center of everything we do, from crop nutrition solutions and now digital solutions. And we find that we have been able to do so much with so many partners, but it's always within a limited geography, or scale is our biggest limitation. And I think our digital solutions or digital technologies, our ambition is to unlock the potential of that scale and really reach as many farmers with contextual, easily accessible knowledge that enable them to better their yields, but also access to markets. And this is where we come back to this platform and knowledge that needs to be unlocked. And we were talking, and you were mentioned that we've been quite busy of late as Yara in East Africa specifically. We launched the Action Africa, Thriving Farms, Thriving Future, which is specifically looking at how do we engage millions of smallholder farmers during this moment of crisis. As first the locusts that wiped up the last season's crops, as well as the COVID. We as Yara realized that there was going to be a need for food security, and we came on board with a project that aimed to deliver fertilizer, but we needed to deliver it in a meaningful way and a sustainable way. And to date, in the last 4 weeks, we've been able to digitally engage over 700,000 farmers, as well as digitize a retail network in both Kenya and Tanzania to have full traceability and transparency to farmer. And this is just the beginning of one of these initiatives, and we can't do it alone. It requires collaboration and local partnerships and government to be involved. And it's something that I think all our panelists have the same sentiment, is that it needs a coming together of minds, of talent, of resource to be able to achieve this.
Okay, thank you very much, Marissa. So we'll launch into the questions. I will weave in the audience questions with the questions that we already have here, just so we can get through them quite quickly. So I want us to look at sort of both sides of there's always a conversation about what are the impediments to the growth of digital agriculture, what are the problems, but I also think that there might be opportunities, there might be a way in which Africa lends itself better to digital agricultural solutions. And so the question is more, what are the opportunities within the space? And then what are the impediments or the challenges to growth in the space? Eric, do you want to start?
Yes. I think that one of the biggest challenge I see is really that most of the solutions that we see in the space of agriculture, digital solutions, are very limited in the way to scaling. And that drives that a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of good solutions they often die after 2 to 3 years, and we don't see totally the value. And part of the knowledge transfer that is done in the process is also stopped. I don't know if I should go already on some of the suggestions of what I see and what will be necessary to implement commonly to get that better. But for me, I see that really as a major challenge. The second challenge that I see is that there is a big difference in terms of knowledge when it comes to digitalizations, depending on the different region in Africa. And sometimes you have people that are applying solutions that are not adapted to the environment, especially because the connection between the different organizations in the different countries doesn't always allow a smooth exchange of information, so that some new actors or new entrepreneurs in the digital space willing to address the challenge in agriculture can benefit from the experience from others and then implement actually what works. We see too many situations where people fail again for the same reason where others have done it. And I think that if we could already address this aspect, that would be really great for the usage of the digitalizations in the agriculture sector.
Right. Well, Eric, we'll come back to you. I'd love to hear, because you have a few African agri-tech startups in your portfolio, it might be interesting to hear a few of the success stories of the agri-tech startups in your portfolio that have done very well and why they've been able to get to that point. But I'll come back to you after that. Lisa, did you want to piggyback on that and speak to that?
Yeah, sure. I think that yeah, I mean, there's a lot of innovation that's happening out there. Our program in particular, we'll only work with organizations that are looking to scale to at least 100,000 farmers. So one of the things that we saw in Africa was, there are a lot of small prizes out there that can encourage different types of innovation, but really what Africa needs is to punch through to scale. So yeah, I think that one of the things that we've learned is that partnerships are extremely important. And a lot of times young tech innovators need a lift up into being able to join into platforms where they can provide a lot of the innovation. So we think that partnerships are necessary, are definitely necessary. There's a pretty big gap right now, I think, around COVID, where what we're seeing is a lot of funding is kind of being driven into the commercial banks to try to get money moving, and a lot of it's getting stuck. There's a huge opportunity, I think, for us right now to, find some creative ways to get the financial institutions more actively engaged in agriculture and with technology platforms, and start jump-starting our markets. And I think this has to be data-driven. Banks are not going to engage. There's so much capital there that needs to move into agriculture, especially in a time of COVID. But they're not going to engage unless, again, they've got data that gives them visibility into what's going on. So I think that this is a critical area of focus for us, that data-driven partnerships and really aligning partnerships that move money with the banks and investors is going to be the way forward.
Okay, thank you very much. So Amrata, I'm going to come to you because I love that Lisa ended on sort of data driven. It'd be interesting to look at the Microsoft perspective in just in data and support capabilities for agriculture in Africa.
Look, I think there are a couple of areas. I think, I started off with data because I think it's sort of the beginning of all engagements that we should really be focused on when you're talking about sort of transforming the entire sector, right? I think that the data insight that we're able to derive, not just in terms of sort of, at a farm level crop yield, but also really understanding sort of at a country level, how and what should be done around decision making. But I think there are also, if you're talking about what do we need to do to sort of digitize, there are a couple of things. The ecosystem as a whole has to come together, right? You need to have sort of, folks who are ready to invest in agriculture. It's not the prime candidate in terms of sort of VC funding or any sort of the early stage funding that we're talking about, right? So there needs to be sort of that mindset, which is that what are the risks? How do we hedge that risk? And who are the partners that we need to have in place to sort of backfill some of the requirements that are there, right? I think that's one. The second one is the incubation. And I think Yara has come into this as well as of late, looking at sort of providing incubation space for startups. Now, I think what's interesting there, and I think this is how we should look at it, is that it's the go-to market that the startups are able to get from that is critical, right? It's really that's not so much sort of the walls that they sit within, but it's really what are the go-to market support without stifling their innovation that we can help them scale. So I think that comes to Lisa's point around how do we punch through the sort of, the scale requirement for us to really make a dent in terms of the opportunities that we have. And then more importantly, sort of, folks like us come to the table with the technical know-how in terms of how do we get them to be able to use the right technology, but also be able to compete as well, right? Because once you start sort of looking at how closely sort of, agriculture is tied to all the different moving pieces across Africa, Africa, we're now talking about CFTA, right? And so if we're talking about, continental free trade with free movement of goods and services, goods leading with agricultural product, what does that really mean? And how do we get to that point between pricing, but also sort of making sure that farmers in any one corner are not left behind?
Okay, thank you very much. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read 3 of the questions from the audience, and we can address that, and then we will move over to the conversation around sort of policy infrastructure, and then we will sort of end it off with conversations about inclusivity in the space. So the first question, now I suppose part of it is answered. How can we crowd in IBM Research, Cisco, Google Africa, and Microsoft into agri-tech to leverage their analytics, machine learning, and IoT capabilities and create commercial agri-tech streams? The second question is, listening from Nairobi, how do we make digital agriculture solutions commercially viable? So there's a thread on the commercial viability question there from the business perspective. How do we develop agnostic digital platforms as opposed to thousands of disaggregated systems? That's a question all on its own. And then there's I think there's a repeat of the question 3. Give me a second. There's a repeat of the question 3. So let's assume question 2 is in 2 parts, which is the commercial viability question, and then the third one being, how do we develop agnostic data platforms as opposed to thousands of disaggregated systems? Marisa, did you want to take a stab at any of these questions?
I think firstly on the commercial viability of solutions, it hinges on scale. And often, as I said before, many startups don't get to that commercial viability space in incubation because they're not able to receive or achieve the scale that's required. It's really a numbers game, but it's also about the value proposition and being able to reach those specific farmers with that value proposition, which often is a combination of both the product as well as the go-to-market. And often the go-to-market is something that is a challenge, because the go-to-market in these environments, and especially in rural environments, is both online and offline. And that requires boots on the ground. And often that requires investment, which many small startups don't have. They might have a perfect solution with a great value proposition, but they don't have the support for the go-to-market. And maybe potentially unlocking some of that funding to specifically focus on the go-to-market is what's lacking in many digital solutions and driving scale for commercial viability.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak to? Yeah, hi, Lisa.
Hey, they're really, really good questions. The first one on the platform, like how do we bring in these big data platforms? How do we bring their power to bear? One thing that we've been working on in the COVID and desert locust kind of crisis is the ability to use WhatsApp and WhatsApp for Business, in a very rapid environment to harness machine learning. So, in the with the advent of climate change, we're going to see more of these outbreaks of pests and disease that are climate related, like desert locust. What we have done, we realized that for desert locust response and even for COVID response, there's a massive amount of data that's needed from people on the ground who are able to say, hey, I saw, there are hopper bands in my area, there are desert locusts in my area, or I think I'm experiencing symptoms of COVID. And so what we found is that the WhatsApp, there's so many farmers on WhatsApp, there's so many farmers on Facebook, there's so many farmers on all of these channels. A lot of them are out there on these channels already and have already adopted the channel. So what we did was we developed a very simple interface first for farmers to report desert locust and to learn about desert locust. A lot of these tools are very interactive. And what happens is when you can use TV TV, radio, all different kinds of channels, you know, to help farmers be part of a citizen reporting, citizen interaction network across all of these different channels, then you gain the benefits of machine learning behind you that's beginning to tell us, and then we share with FAO, we share with the Kenyan government, with the Ethiopian government, there are desert locusts in this area. And then you're able to tell the farmer interactively, you know, spraying is going to be happening. This is what's happening. So, you know, I think that we're entering into a world where we can have, where machine learning can gather massive amounts of data in real time, crunch it and communicate it to multiple stakeholders who can take action and provide real feedback to farmers. So we think that this kind of farmer-facing universe, you know, and one thing that really kind of surprised us when we launched it was that our partner, Turn.io, was already partnered with the World Health Organization and had a COVID functionality in WhatsApp. And so that allows, and essentially what that allows is for farmers to use these chat services to say, wow, you know, I think I'm confused, you know, can I get COVID from my cattle? Can I give COVID to my dog? You know, these kinds of things, and able to respond to millions of people immediately. So I think that I think we're also entering into an interesting space where we can use these. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, and these big super platforms can co-collaborate. You know, we know Google is doing amazing work in this space. So I think that's definitely someplace to look at. But in terms of your other question about agnostic services and viability, one thing that we're frustrated about right now is how much money is being wasted on reinventing the wheel on content. You know, and we certainly have seen it on COVID. We see it in dairy, we see it in wheat rust, I mean, you name it. So much money is going to just reinventing the wheel, reinventing content. And, you know, so many of these young tech startups could do much more if they can just get access to high quality content in an open sharing environment. You know, these types of investment in best practice dairy content or fall armyworm content should be made publicly available and should be configured to different types of delivery channels, whether that's SMS or WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever channel. I think that that's an area where we need to stop making everybody spend, and we need to increase commercial viability by creating kind of agnostic open platforms for content.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That it dovetails actually into a question. So it was a comment from the audience on standards. So the comment says standards to enable interoperability of digital agriculture solutions at country level will be catalytic, so that even with the fragmentation of data and business intelligence needed for decision making available at enterprise level, okay, I get what the person is trying to say. So it's basically the conversation around we do need standards for interoperability that will enable enterprise level, government level, ministerial level to be able to work and enable digital platforms. This allows for more innovation while running less risk of paternalistic outcomes. Now, that dovetails for me into the conversation about what is needed in terms of an enabling environment. And Nkabire, maybe you can speak to this. What is needed in terms of an enabling environment to enable digital solutions in agricultural space in Africa to do well? So we're talking infrastructure, we're talking policy. What are the foundational things that need to be put in place? Nkabire, do you want to start, and then we'll take it from there?
Sure, thank you very much. Like I mentioned before, I think I just want to add that there's one thing that is also part of the enabling environment, you know, the ecosystem, is the human capital, the skills. You know, we need to look at how to remove also that human capital development that has been there as also a barrier in terms of digital literacy. in our work, we have been working like in 5 countries, African countries, and we have seen that we need to boost, understanding of these digital solutions, and that is across really, even from government regulators to the users. So that is very important. Once they have understanding of the benefit that these digital solutions are bringing, there is also that embracing the solutions. And I also mentioned earlier that we need to see enterprises, donors, investors, agribusinesses, and governments, coming together to create an environment, an enabling environment, which digital agricultural solutions can drive, and produce impact. And the best way is really, like we have mentioned here, we have so many solutions, that are being born every day, new things coming up. We need to see how to develop, how all these developments are well coordinated, and that we have also platform where these best practices are well shared, and collaborative approach to rolling out and scaling up these digital solutions. And this must be well done. And one of the things we have to ensure is really that we ensure that these solutions are used, by farmers. We don't have just a lot of things happening there, but not really accessible to farmers, as it has also been mentioned before. So we need to scaling out solutions, we need to do that through partnership. We want to see a lot of partnership going on, and linking solution providers. It's very important, and farmers organizations, because a lot of things are happening, but we want to see how all these things can be well coordinated. Government and development partners, coordinating all these efforts that are being done, so that to avoid, isolations, in those key areas that I have mentioned. So it's really bringing all those key actors together, and bringing up, great partnership, and supporting the private sector, supporting the startups, not just only innovating, but helping them to really bring it to commercialization. So that is very important thing that we have to look at. Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go on. Amrati, did you want to speak on the sort of foundational things that we needed? Did you?
No, I think it's touched upon.
Okay, great. Maybe Erica, I can come to you with this, just because I know you worked hand in hand with
yeah.
Was that Senegal? I keep forgetting. Is it the Senegalese? Yeah.
Yes, we did sign an agreement with Senegal in order to help them support the companies in Senegal by sharing actually the knowledge that we aggregate by investing in different companies in Africa, so that we can structure the process to support them in their development in Senegal. So that was.
With that background, I wonder if you want to speak to what you think should be the sound national strategies for digital agriculture, so on a government level, what that should look like.
Well, from my humble point of view, I think that one of the questions, and people often mix what is digitalizations, and I'll give my own perspective, and I hope that people will not jump off the chairs. Is that I think that people mix the fact that digitalizations is an accelerator, allowed to bring transparency, facilitate the process, but it's not a producer. And therefore, some people develop digital solutions, but they don't plug the digital solutions on an environment where there is, and I talk in the context of agriculture, of course, on an environment where there is enough, let's say, operational drive, so that they can actually increase the value and being behind the sustainable. I will give some concrete example, because you asked me in terms of some of the company where we invested, and I will show some pattern that we've seen. So we've invested in Farm Credit. That was I think the first or one of the first to do crowdfunding for agriculture. And what I see at the end is what they've used digitalizations to combine money, mechanizations, and let's say culture, where the people, the different local organizations were working together. We've done it again in investing in agro centers, and what they've done is that somehow they have combined culture, transactions, and they use the digitalization really to make it more efficient and work better. And we invest also recently in Ekodudu, who is focusing on circular economy and using insect to feed animal, and they use again digitalizations to improve the management of the distributions. What I would like to say is that what I think that the common factor for me in terms of success for all those companies is that they have understood what in terms of agriculture was needed, and they have plugged on top of it the digitalizations once the first part was really working and had a sense. So I will say that one of the recommendations that I would say from a strategic point of view is that it's really important to connect more digitalization with mechanization, because mechanization in the context of agriculture is actually what will drive the volume, what will allow to reach this critical size and this capacity of created added value product on the continent. And when we will combine this with all those innovation in terms of digitalization that allows to improve input management, to improve the information, etc., that will be done also in a context where you have a volume of activities that allows those different actors in the digital to survive, to be much more efficient in terms of the value that they can get through the digitalization. So I think that unfortunately the conversation when we talk to digitalization is often separate from the challenge of mechanizations that are needed to get the agriculture in Africa also reach the potential and respond actually to the need that are in the continent. So
okay. Thank you very much on that. Anybody else want to speak on the infrastructure policy foundational? Otherwise, I'm going to go on to the conversation, the discussion about inclusivity.
I'll jump on that, Ethel. Just, I think maybe just to add to what Eric was saying. Look, we have to, as much as we talk about sort of digitization, and it is sort of, the topic of now, right? We have to also make sure that the attention that it's getting doesn't just dissipate away as sort of the next new thing comes around development, okay? So I think, as we're talking about digitization cannot, an SMS service cannot be the beginning and end of how we're talking about digitization of agriculture. Like that cannot be our mindset, that cannot be sort of our goal, and that cannot be our measure for our success, right? There are elements around skills, there are elements around policy, there are elements around data governance, and then more importantly, there are elements of then how do we then grow some of our farmers to become business people and then really help them scale as well. So unless we're able to really tie all these elements, and foundation of that, okay, as we're talking about it, is accessibility and affordability that has to go in, not just in terms of the devices, but also in terms of services as well. So I think to that extent, there's an element of, and I think a key portion of it is, what is the role of telcos, right, in terms of how they're able to also invest, drive a deeper reach into some of these communities that are not as connected, right? What is our ability to now look at, unallocated spectrum as a way to even further the connectivity challenges and gaps that we have in Africa, and what are the technologies that are there today that can actually enable that? So unless we're able to really look at this, I think, our measuring stick of looking at just what's out now and what's being used cannot be really the way that will allow for a meaningful, deep transformation within agriculture.
No, that's the great addition to the conversation about, until the digitalization doesn't become the next fad, doesn't push out digitalization. I'm going to move into the conversation about inclusivity. I've always thought of there are three digital divides, I suppose, three divides, I suppose, when it comes to agriculture or digital agriculture, which is the digital divide itself, right? Ability to access data, ability to access digital technologies. Then we have the rural rural urban sort of split, and then we have the gender split. How do we begin to design policies for digital in Africa that that look at those three areas and make sure that we are including people on the different sides of the divide? Who wants to take that up? I know it's a big question, but who wants to start? Oh, silence.
I can try very quickly. I think that what you mentioned, I think for me, it all starts from education, because when you talk about gender, we see now more and more women being involved into the digitalization, but it's also because there is a bigger number of women that have this, this knowledge, and that then can also advocate and show the path for the others. So I think that as long as there will be a strong policy to facilitate and increase the access to education and ensure that the mindset that was the old mindset that technology are like more men territory, and I think that this is almost fully disappeared. I would not say fully disappear, but almost fully disappear. I think that definitely the question of gender will solve by itself, because there is a need in terms of competences, there is a need in terms of skills, and a lot of those skills are nowadays bring by women who had this background and this had the access of this knowledge. So I think that come naturally, and we should start by solving the source.
All right, I'm Roti, then Lisa.
Okay.
No, please give it to Lisa. I think, go ahead.
One thing that I would say is I don't think this is going to solve itself naturally. I wish that it would, but I am seeing some things that I think, and some policy and activity areas that I think are important. One of the things that we're doing is we're working with the Kenyan government and the Kenya Agriculture, Livestock and Research Organization, and they've been working quite a bit with World Bank and others, to begin to digitize and put farmers on the map. A lot of times that involves geotagging. It involves actually like physically locating a farmer and determining what they do. What does that family household look like? What is the role of the woman? What is the role of the man in the agricultural business there? And as we know, to your earlier question, Ethel, 60 to 70% of populations across sub-Saharan Africa are typically in some way involved in small-scale agriculture. So it's a big group, and right now it's a big black hole in terms of identity. And the biggest challenge that women face is that people don't know that they're there and what they're doing. Over and over, we find that the lists of farmers who exist are predominantly male. And that means that the men get invited to trainings. They get, they have a credit history. They're on grid. And I think one of the most important things is to bring women on grid as well. And there are some real challenges around that. I mean, I think women are often much more concerned about sharing their data. We've definitely seen that across many of our, so it needs to be done carefully. But what we do really like is that government bodies like CalRO are and different county governments that we've seen are doing exercises to sort of bring on a lot of data. Government is a trusted partner for the most part, to bring a lot of data into a hub and then to create data sharing rules that protect the farmer, that give multiple players, access to that data so they can bring them services. So women need to be brought on grid. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to have a phone, but we need to know who they are. And that information, kind of like I was talking about, our frustration about content and everybody reinventing the wheel. It's the same thing about collecting information on women, where they are, what they do, and bringing them on grid in a safe way. That shouldn't be done over and over and over again by every actor on the face of the planet. One of the things that CalRO is trying to do now is collect that data and then make it available. And that is a huge leverage point for young tech startups, where their core cost is driving acquisition and just finding farmers, finding an easy, low cost, safe, secure way to find farmers and market their services to them. So there are a lot of challenges around that. How do you keep farmers safe? How do you direct the right products and services? How do you keep them from just going numb when everyone's trying to sell them something on their cell phone? These are big issues. But number one, we need to reduce the cost and create a safe environment to bring women on grid and give them access to services. So Emirate, I defer the rest of my time to you.
I think you've captured it all, Lisa.
Marissa, did you want to speak to us on, just on your side of how you ensure inclusivity in your products?
So how do we include inclusivity in our products?
No,
I think,
of course, speak to the first question. I'm just bundling the questions.
I'll answer both then. I wanted to second the sentiment in terms of putting women or bringing their voice to the fore within the agricultural space. Often when we do research on the ground or when we have farmer meetings, predominantly men. So that's the level of data that we generally end up capturing. What we have found is that you need an inclusive approach to go to market. When I talk inclusive, it even down to the researchers. So when you're sending researchers into field to find out what farmers need when you're developing your products, it's that your field team is representative, because you need to create that safe environment for women to talk and to be heard. And that has been a key learning for us when we're developing our products and when we're doing user research, is that even our field teams are representative to be able to extract the maximum value and in building the product. But also when we take the product to market, in general, this is a male-dominated space historically. All the lead images that you see around agriculture are very masculine. And it is up to us within the industry to start to change that narrative and to create that inclusive space where you have females as leads in your communication and in all your material. And I think we've done that quite effectively, and we're starting to see the results. And when you create those leads and women that other women can look up to within communities, you start to see more acceptance and openness. And for example, now with our program that we're running in Action Africa, we've got 49% female representation, women that have joined our program through communication, but also through on the ground representative engagement with our partners. So they are there. It's just you need to take a cognitive look at how you are approaching them. And it's not just about the messaging, but it's also about your infrastructure and your people on the ground.
Brilliant. Actually, your point on even who's going to research has actually reminded me of a couple of years ago. We were on a Grameen project, a Gates-funded. It was a Gates-funded Grameen project it was in the maternal health space, but it was in the poorest parts of northern Ghana, and the very sort of the team didn't. As they built the system, when they finally went and met the people who used the system, which was mostly pregnant women, they realized that the one fundamental flaw was that the women generally didn't own the phone in the household. And so the phone would be available to them when the husband was home. And so in terms of like redesigning the product so that the women could say, here's the time I want the data sent to me, because that's when I will have access to the device to be able to see data. So it's very important for the people that are doing the research, the people that are building the product, that inclusivity, even in those set of people, that enables the products to appeal to all people that need to use it. Ingabire, did you want to comment on the inclusivity conversation, and then I will power through the questions we have left, because I think we're running out of time. I'll power through the questions we have left, and then we can sort of answer them in cluster.
I think they have really mentioned the very important thing. I just want to add that also we just have to, since we know the importance of inclusivity, we know the importance of this to grow digital solution, you know, in our continent. I think what is very important is also to ensure that we invest in this, you know, and give to it and intentionally target those groups that need this support and provide the support that they need. Because most of the time we come up with big plans, and actually the solutions or the needs are not really reaching the people that need them. So as it has been mentioned, identify those ones that need the support and actually have access to them and provide the support needed. I think we just have to be very practical and intentionally provide support, and I think we will solve a lot of problems that way. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'll get through the questions. I'll just read through them really fast. So question 6, digitalizing agriculture is a way to go, and Kenya is making good efforts. How do we ensure commodity quality online, and how do you manage counterfeit products online? So that's an interesting question. We have a comment. We need to intentionally target youth in the digitalization of agriculture to tap into their talent and passion for technology, as well as ensure their active and gainful engagement in the agricultural value chains. That's noted. Question 7 is, I think, it's a repeat of question 6. Question 8, thank you, Madam Ingabire, for highlighting the need for political will. What are some of the practical ways in which governments can incentivize digital technology transfer to smallholder farmers? Question 9, congratulations to Marisa. This is a phenomenal progress. Can we look at scaling last mile digital solutions into countries with less penetration than Kenya and Rwanda, who are clear leaders in the space with Zambia? Okay, there's another comment. Eric makes a very good point. This is the old problem of project work in development, where we do not really achieve post-project evaluation because we are running to the next project, and I can't afford the time and resources to go back and check on what we have achieved or not a few years afterwards. Plus, there is, of course, a strong pressure towards reporting success stories, not failures from which we could learn. Question 10, how can we use traceability services to facilitate agricultural trade within Africa and take the advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement to boost food trade within Africa and open up continental markets for smallholder farmers? Question 11, what are the measures put together to support youth in Kenya with digital support mechanisms for this business? I think that might have been for the minister, but he's no longer on the call. Comment from the audience, good data can be valuable. Business industry intelligence as with, okay, I'm having a hard time understanding this. I'm going to skip that. Okay. Comment from the audience, we need to localize the delivery of sustainability support to make it more affordable and legitimate among farmers. Okay, question 13. That is quite, thank you very much for the questions. We really appreciate them. It seems like this is a really engaged audience. Question 13, I think we often hope that we can simply introduce new technologies and solutions to the market, and over time they will naturally grow and intertwine with other initiatives until a fully digital value chain emerges. This approach is misled. We do not have to look far to find a graveyard of one-off digital innovations that have proved their merit individually but failed to achieve scale or regional integration, and with insufficient incentives for the system's data to be maintained at the rural farmer level. Question, is there anything that could be trialed with a few motivated off-takers to input providers to smallholders who value this data to see if we could set up localized agents collecting, aggregating data for sharing with multiple market partners, regardless of the ERMs and systems these commercial partners use? That's a very good question. Now, we've got about 5 minutes, and so everybody's got about 30 seconds to do their wrap up, and then we'll take it from there. Eric, sorry, let's start with Eric. Forgive me.
I feel like the ginger minority here.
Yes, that's a good thing.
So,
it's empowerment.
What I can say is that obviously the audience is very Kenya centric, but I would like to say that I think that what I can say is that for East Africa, which is very well advanced in terms of technology, and I can, when I look at what's happening and the different innovations that we meet every time, I think that there is now a better matching between the digitalizations and some of the cultural way, some of the culture that are, let's say, things that are usually implemented culturally in Africa. And I mean that.
Eric, I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to move. Sorry, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to move really fast. Ingabire, 20 seconds.
Okay.
I just want to quickly, if you mind, I just want to quickly answer the question that was asked towards me. Is that okay?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, so I think as governments, we have practical steps that can be done to support this space is really to attract new investors by publicly supporting digital solutions and highlighting the benefits of local enabling conditions, and prioritize and take into account the needs of marginalized segments of groups as part of the digital solution investments. And definitely the last point is really to incentivize, provide incentives, impact oriented. We have solutions that are clear, that are that have impacts. We can clearly see them. So encourage public-private partnership with digital solution enterprise that are committed to impact. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Marissa?
Gotta go.
I'll just end off by saying that any digital solution or any digitization needs to think about sustainability. And the short-term win in digitizing or digital solutions is creating that baseline of sustainability metrics that you can measure against and create impact. And when you start to do that, you have the potential to unlock much more funding into any solution. So I think when you start looking at sustainability and digitization, I think that is when we will be able to unlock more potential in the continent, but also from an investment perspective.
Thank you. Amrati?
quick, I just want to bust a myth. I know how everyone always talks about East Africa. I just want to say that, when we started our programming literally a year and a half ago in Nigeria, we had a 25,000 farmer target, and we are now at almost 500,000 farmers getting digital services in Nigeria. I think that digital is flowering in a lot of countries. In Zambia, Zanaco Bank, who's one of our partners, has 60% women on their digital solution. Ethiopia, 8 million farmers on IVR. So this is not just a Kenya revolution. This is way outside of Kenya, and we need to break our paradigm. This is not all about M-Pesa and mobile money anymore.